Hi guys, welcome to Crazy Burger. So in this video I'm going to be looking at multi-discs and playlists on the 400 Mini and how to make that happen. So without further ado, let's get started with the video. Okay guys, we'll start with the simple adding multi-discs using the sort of standard method. So choose your game. In this instance I'm going to use the example of Trivial Pursuit. Now, depending on what joystick you're using or gamepad, it might differ what the button you need to use here, but I'll use the standard joystick and I'll refer to the gamepad as well. So choose the first game, which would be disc 1 or game disc in this instance. Press the fire button, it'll add it to the list. Now what you need to do now is actually add the further discs that you've got. So disc 1, 2, 3. Now you can only do up to 3 discs using this method. If you have more than 3 discs, you'll have to do the playlist, which will show later in the video. So to add the next disc, you press the S button if you're using the joystick, which is the silly little button at the bottom on the side, which you probably don't even know is there. Or if you're using the gamepad, you press the R1 button or the right shoulder button, and that will add the next disc for you. And if you want to choose another one, just press the same again. Now we can only do a maximum of 3, and that's all. So then you just press home to start the game as normal. So right away we've got insert a question disc that we want to use, then press fire. So what you need to do is hold down the home button. In this instance I'm using the gamepad, and choose the L1 button. It basically selects the next disc up. So I'm choosing question disc number 1, then press the fire button and it will actually load the next disc. So if you're actually using the joystick, you would hold down the home button and press the down on the circular bit around the joystick, which I'm showing in the diagram right now. So obviously you need to be aware what gamepad or joystick you're using and what the control is to select the next disc. And then you should be able to play your game as normal. Now it might differ from game to game. Sometimes it's asking you to flip discs. Now what I've done is just chose the next disc and pressed the fire button, and it seems to work. I'm not entirely sure it's going to work for every single game. I've played this game a lot on the C64, absolutely loved it, but you could pretty much cheat throughout the entire game, which obviously is a bit daft, but usually you'd be playing against another player rather than yourself because it's a little bit dull and just there's no challenge at all. Some of these questions are unbelievable. I'm not sure what's wrong with the sound in this game. I'm not sure if this is just how the game was or there just is no sound, but in the C64 version there was sound, but still a pretty cool game. Definitely better for more than one player, that's for sure. Okay, so we'll look at some further examples of that. Now, obviously, some games have more than one disc, which means you really have to create that playlist, which I'll show in a little minute. But I'm going to do another example of obviously playing multi-discs. This one only has 2. Obviously, we don't need to use this as an example because that's already on the carousel, but just to give you an idea. So you press the start button and then hold down the right stick or the S button, and it should add the second disc, and then you can play as normal. Now right away it's obviously asking us to insert the map disc, which I'm assuming is disc number 2. So again, hold down the home button and select the next disc by either L1 or the bottom button around the joystick, and then press the fire button, and it should then initiate the game as so. So pretty straightforward stuff. Hopefully that works for most. You might come across some problems. I've seen a few games talking about flipping the disc. I'm not sure if there's double-sided discs and how that actually works. So it's a little bit of an unknown. It's not really covered in the manual how that would actually work. Okay guys, so now we're moving on to creating the playlist. Now that's a little bit more complicated. Now it is listed in the manual, that section. So if you're not sure that, download the manual from the Retro Games website. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to have a look at it. For me, it's a little bit complicated, so I'll try and explain it in my own simple terms and how to actually do this. What I'm going to do is use a simple example. So create the folder called ATR files for start, and then we'll put all the sort of multi-disc games in there. So in this instance, I'm just sticking to a very simple example. This is Summer Games Disc 1 and 2. Obviously, if you have more than one disc, up to 4 discs, then you would just have them all dumped here like so. Now, what you need to do now is create yourself a text file with the .m3u extension. Now, what to do is just open up Notepad. Okay guys, so have your Notepad open. it's basically just Notepad. It's very straightforward, and list all the games that are within the ATR folder. Now you have to list the ATR files here, then what the game is called. So in this instance, if you look at the ATR files in there, so that's, you need to word it exactly as it is in the folder, with the same sort of spaces, dashes, and how it's actually listed within that folder. So just put this one, this two. ATR files is obviously the folder name. You don't necessarily have to have the ATR files folder. You could just have them all in the one folder, but you might get a little bit confused. So once you've listed all the games as it is in the folder on the left hand side of the screen, all you need to do is do a file save as, and then save it within your USB drive. Now doesn't need to be in the ATR file. You can just put it in where the rest of your folder is, in the base of the actual USB stick. Now change it to all files, summer games, and then you just need to have put .m3u, and then just save. So that will create a file within your USB stick. If you sort of scroll down all the games I've got here. So here it is here, summer games, M3U file, and then all you need to do is start that to start your game in the 400 Mini. Pretty straightforward. Obviously, if there's different, more than one disc, it does get a little bit confusing. So there's another example here, would be a game like Ultima 4. Now, obviously, they're not called disc 1, 2, 3, and 4. You're going to have to use, you could probably change the names of them if you want, but then you might forget what these files are, like program file, town, underworld, for example. So you need to probably list them in the right order. So program would be the first disc, obviously, and then you would list them which ones would come after it. But you probably need to remember which files they are when you're choosing your disc in the actual game when you're playing. So obviously you can choose either disc 2, 3, 4, it's up to you. Then you press start to initiate that disc. So it's quite a complicated sort of process, that, but I'll try and use this one as an example in a minute. But we'll stick with summer games because that's a pretty straightforward example. So let's go back to the 400 Mini and I'll show you what happens. It's pretty much the same way as you would with the standard way of playing multi-disc games. Okay, so back to the 400 Mini and obviously go to your USB stick. So all your ATR files are in here. You don't need to touch them. That's just a reference to where the files actually are. So we need to find the MTU file, which is like the rest, but it's got a little plus sign on it. That's obviously indicating that that's the M3U file there. So just press the start button, the fire button, and then press home to start the game as you normally would. And then that will instigate the first disc, and then it will ask for your next disc as well when you actually start the game. Okay, saying flip disk and press return. So again, choose your next disc by using the same method we would with playing multi-disc games standard. So you'd press the home button and then the S button, or in my case, and I'm playing using the gamepad, we'd choose the L1 button or the left shoulder button, and that'll choose the next disc, which is disc 2, and then press the fire button, and then we can start playing the game. Obviously, if you've got more than one disc that's asking for a specific disc, you need to remember what disc it is and then choose that one before pressing start. Not an easy game to play at all. Okay guys, so a slightly more complex example here. I'm looking at Ultima 4. Now, you probably have to list them. I think the program would be like disc 1, for example, then Britannia, Town, Underworld. Not sure which order after program, to be honest, but you just have to remember which order they're actually in. When you're asked for the Britannia sort of disc, that would be disc 2, and then so forth. Disc 3, Town, disc 4, Underworld. So list them in your notepad as such. And then save that as a .m3u file as normal within the file. Now, have to be worded exactly as they are in your notepad text file. And just do a save as, and save it into your main folder within the USB drive. Change the file type to that, and obviously I don't know why it's saving it like that, that's just a bit weird. So it's be Ultima 4. .m3u, and then just click save, and that basically saves that as the m3u file. So now what we'll do now is go back to the 400 Mini. We'll try and play through this game. I think you definitely need a keyboard if you're thinking about playing some of these games, so have that attached as well. It will certainly help. Okay guys, so back to the 400 Mini. Let's try out Ultima 4. Now here is the file that we've created. Just choose that as normal. Now with Ultima 4 you have to make sure that the Atari model is, I think it's the 130, the XEX version, possibly. So choose that and then we can get started. Otherwise I don't think it will work. So in this you really have to remember what disc 2 is. Disc 2 I think was Britannia, disc 3 whatever it is. So this one definitely has to be programmed, so that has to be the first one. You could probably rename them disc 1, 2 and 3 and 4 if you wanted to, and still kept the name of Britannia and that within the file. You just have to make sure that the notepad matches exactly what you've changed it to when you're creating the game. But within this game you definitely need to have a keyboard inserted to actually start playing the game, otherwise it'll be a little bit of a nightmare. So if you want to play this game, definitely invest on a cheapish USB keyboard. You can also get a wireless one as well, I guess. So obviously you've got choices here. The start number is the one you want to choose on the keyboard. Initiate a new game, just press the I button. Choose your name, whatever you want to call yourself. Press enter. And then just keep pressing the enter to go through the actual story. There might be some further keys that pop up, will give you some options, and then it might, at some points, it will ask you for another disc. So just need to remember which disc is in the order that you put it on the actual notepad. So at the start of the game, you're really just going through the story, then you set up your character. This is pretty cool, certainly one I never played before. I'm pretty sure this was on the Commodore 64 as well, but you needed the disc at the time. Didn't have a disc drive, so it's pretty cool to be able to play some of these games, and it seems to work really well with the keyboard. So basically you're setting up your character here and it asks you different options. You choose A or B on the keyboard, whichever one you want to, or you want your character to be. So eventually you will get to a choice. Please place the Britannia disc into drive 1, then press escape. So you hold down the home button as usual, then press the S button, or in my case it will be the left shoulder button, and then you can choose disc 2, which in our case was the Britannia disc, and then just press the escape button on the keyboard and it should then load in that disc, and then you can get started and play the actual game, which is pretty cool. But obviously you need to know the keys. To move the character, it's just the arrow keys basically in the game. Not sure what all the other controls are. I need to probably download an original manual for this game to be able to play it properly and understand the actual rules. But really cool game. I'm looking forward to maybe trying it a little bit more. Okay guys, thanks very much for watching the video. I hope that helps you get started with multi-disc games and playlists on your 400 Mini. Thanks for watching. Catch you again in the next one. Bye for now.